Hey, Strongman Competitors, this is for you. So courtesy of Grindhouse Fitness, I put together this decompression mobility functional recovery workout for all of you competing this weekend. That way you can decompress, stay loose, stay feeling strong, and crush it at your event. The very first one that we're going to do for decompression is going to be a hanging spine decompression. So what you want to do is find a bar that's overhead that you can hang on to, kind of like a pull-up, where your feet are going to be off the floor. We want to stay close to the floor. So if by grabbing the bar you're just too high up, like it was for me, then what you want to do is get a box that you can step onto and off of for this mobility drill. Now what you want to do is step up onto the box, grab the bar. You want to relax everything, step off the box, still hanging on, so that now you're hanging. Arms are relaxed, your back is as relaxed as possible. Of course, it's a little tough to do because you're having to use your grip to hang on. As you're hanging, that's gonna create with gravity, your body weight and gravity, that decompression in the spine. You're gonna hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds because we want traction. Step onto the box for about a second or two, step back off the box, allow your legs to hang, 3 to 5 seconds, step back on, step back off, 3 to 5 seconds, you're hanging. And what I want you to also do is actively think about your heels, pushing your heels down towards the floor. That way you're also using your muscles to create further separation in that spine for you. Again, only 3 to 5 seconds, hop back on, 1 set of 10. All right, you got it? The next one is for the shoulder complex. Now, because of a lot of exercises, you got to engage your traps. Over time, those traps get really, really strong and they start to pull your shoulders up. They start to compress that shoulder joint, start to compress your neck, vertebrae, your cervical. So what we want to do is get the band, anchor it down low. You may have to, depending on how strong that band is, and we do want a strong one, squat down, loop it in, and then from there you're going to stand up. That band is going to pull that shoulder down, and then you're going to feel that stretch through the neck. Again, what we want to do is relax as much as possible. Let the band pull to create that stretch. As you're holding, create a deeper, further stretch by working the neck, getting the neck to move back, forward, on the side. So we want to get all those neck muscles, those upper traps being stretched. And then also with your hands, you are aiming towards the floor. You're reaching for the floor, assisting that band into a deeper stretch. And so you're going to actively move and get that stretch, but then you're going to relax. Again, about 1 to 2 seconds, 3 seconds, get into another active stretch for about 3 to 5 seconds. And you want to go back and forth. We want passive, but we also want active with it. 1 set of about 30 seconds, and then we move on to the next one. All right, so like I was saying, with gravity in the workouts, it's also our muscles that create that compression. What we want to do for this next one is going to be the lats. We want to get a band overhead. We want to have some room to move. We're going to tie that band around the wrist so that we're not having to grip it, because when you grip it, you're flexing the muscles that we're trying to relax to be able to get a deeper stretch. Loop your hand in there, your wrist, and then take a step back. Use your leg on the same side that you're pulling from. Use your leg and your hip to pull away and open up those lats even further. And then you can do it dynamic. You can step in, releasing the stretch, get into a deeper stretch, release the stretch, or you can just really get into a really good deep stretch. Now, every once in a while, we may feel some pressure in that shoulder, so just kind of find that angle with that band to where we're not having that compression in the shoulder joint. And then also kind of rotate, get that joint moving. Again, we want to be passive and just relax, let the band do the work. But we also want to be active with the joint and get that joint moving so that we're stretching and creating more space and mobility at every position, every angle of that joint. So what we're doing is, for the majority of your workouts, it's all that pressure is going to some major muscle groups. So another one's going to be the hip flexor. Now what we want to do is, again, use a band. Now you're really strong, you have a lot of muscle. That muscle is always pulling. So we need some strong bands to be able to pull against it to create that space. So don't get an easy band, get a tough one, get a big one. It's going to require more work on your end, but it's what we need. All right, so for the hip flexor, you're going to face it. You may want to get a pad that you can put your knee on so it's not so hard on the floor. From there, get that band right up underneath that butt cheek, as high up as possible on the back of the thigh. And then you're going to take a step back. That band is already pulling forward to create that stretch in the hip flexor. From there, you're going to drive your hip forward, tuck your hips into what we call a posterior pelvic tilt, You can engage the glutes, activate the glutes as you push the hips forward. You're gonna feel a deeper stretch. Bring your arm on that same side up so that you get that iliopsoas with the hip flexor, and then you're gonna rock back and forth. So keep it dynamic, come off of it so that you get that muscle to relax, go back in. That way you're also lubricating, open up space in the joint and not just stretching the muscle. Whenever we stretch and hold, that's usually just isolating the muscle, becoming more flexible, but we don't do much in unstiffening the joint. In line with decompression, what we want to do is really focus on the ankles. They're the last major joint supporting all of the weight, your body weight and everything that you're lifting, so they can definitely get compressed. Now what we want to do is, again, with decompression, it's really effective to use bands. So you are going to have to use a bit of a tough band. With this one, it is a little tough to get into that position, a little awkward, but it is what it is. Have that band just above the ankle. You're going to drive that foot forward, have a pad for your knee, have that foot firm on the floor. You're going to use your hip and your knee to drive that knee forward, creating that angle in that ankle, allowing that band to pull and create that space. 1 to 2 seconds, rock back out of it, rock into it, rock back out of it, rock into it. 1 set of 10 on each. Now, whenever we're working with the spine, we already decompressed, but we want to make that spine mobile. We want it to rotate, we want it to bend, we want it to go side to side, forward and back. Now, one of the things as well is it's not just decompression that affects the spine, it's also our muscles because they create tension and they pull, especially whenever we're working out, we're using them. So in this case, what we want to do is create a mobility drill for the spine to loosen it up, but we also want to open up the iliopsoas because that's what affects it a lot. Now, this one's a little funky, a little hard to get the coordination down and the feeling for, but let's do it anyways. You're going to lay down on your back, arms overhead, and what you're going to do is keep your hips as leveled as possible, and with your arm only, reach across your body, aiming for your other hand, so diagonally reaching up, and you're going to use those muscles to pull your torso across, and you're going to start to feel a stretch in that iliopsoas. Keep pulling to where those muscles are now forcing the hip to come up. So don't use your hip muscles to pull your hip across. Let it be dead weight. Your leg, your hip is dead weight, and you're carrying that dead weight with your arm only, and you're going to feel that stretch through the iliopsoas. You're going to come back down, reach for the other one. That way you're alternating, getting the spine to become more mobile and unstiffen, but then also loosening up the iliopsoas. That way they're not pulling on your spine as well. Like I said just before, what we want to do with the spine is supposed to be able to be mobile and move forward, backward, side to side, and rotate. So this next one, what we want to do, we already did the rotation. Now we want it to go bend forward and back. So we're going to do a good old-fashioned one, the back extension. What we're going to add to it is an overhead with a wooden dowel or PVC. Now, you start at just above the low back, so where the free ribs are, you're going to start with the roller there, and then you're going to bend back, doing that back extension, getting the spine to loosen up the other way because we're normally pulling forward. We want it to open up. And as you do, bring that PVC overhead, make contact with the floor. You're going to do 3. After you do 3, bring the hips or move the hips down so that you move the roller up your spine, 1 vertebrae or about 1 inch. Do 3 again, move it up the spine, do 3 again, and each one you are trying to make contact with the floor, making sure that your shoulder is not compensating, that it's opening up as you come down. That way we're also mobile with the shoulders and the T-spine. Last one for the spine. So we already did the rotation, we did the forward and back, now we want to do side to side, and what we want to do is open up also those iliopsoas, those core muscles that are always pulling on the spine and keeping it tight and compressed. So what you're going to do is get into a side plank position, keep your body completely straight and in line, and then from your elbows and your hands, you're going to press and bend, opening up that space, but then you're also bending at the spine to make that more mobile. Come up, keep your hips stacked and keep them stuck to the floor. Don't let your hips come up. So come up as high as you comfortably can. Don't try to lock out your elbows if your spine or your body is not allowing you to do so. Same thing, about 1 set of 10, up and down, up and down. For this mobility drill, what we want to do is open up the hips some more, and one of the major muscle groups that we don't really hit a lot with mobility drills or stretches, but we do work a lot with strongman routines are the inner thigh muscles, and they also work a lot whenever you're having to do some heavy carries. So we definitely want to keep that muscle loose and that joint open for the hips. What you're going to do for the striders is get into a push-up position, bring your foot up to your hand, feel that stretch in the inner thigh, take the foot back, alternate, bring the other one up. To get a deeper stretch, when you have your foot up by your hand, keep a neutral spine. You can drop the hips, getting into a deeper stretch. Or if you feel like that's still not deep enough and you want to go further, or that you feel like you can go further, whenever you bring your foot up, go into a push-up, taking your elbows to the floor and still maintaining a neutral back. If you're having to round your back to get the elbows to the floor, it's not really counting. You're not really stretching the adductor muscles. All right. This next one, this is really more of a bonus for just the low back specifically. Not so much for the spine, but more so your back extensors, your erector spinae, your QL. So the QL was also being stretched on the side one. Now what we want to do for the low back muscles to stretch them, we want to have a low seat or a box. So it is okay to you have your hips whenever you sit down just a little bit lower than your knees. We do not want our hips above the knees. We want to be even or below. From there, you're going to drive your elbows. You're going to bend over, drive your elbows to the floor as much as possible. Hold for about 3 to 5 seconds. Come back up, let your back rest. Go back into that deep stretch as low as you can. So you are actively using your core muscles, using your front muscles to drive those elbows to the floor. Get that stretch, relax. Get that stretch, relax. All right, so what we started out with was decompression to open up space in our spine and our joints. Then from there, we went into some different mobility drills to really make everything more fluid and more mobile. Now what we want to do is create strength, or bring strength back into that new range of motion, because in a weird way, what's happening is whenever we do loosen everything up and we do open everything up, we're actually creating what's called instability, because it's loose. And that's kind of like using new muscle. So what we want to do is bring strength back into that new range of motion and bring strength into that new muscle that really wasn't being used before because everything was so compressed. Point being, what we want to do is a activation or strength exercise for brevity, and because you can't have too long of a routine going into your comps. One of the best exercises, total body exercise, that's going to hit everything pretty much that we just did, is going to be a Turkish Get Up. So make sure that you maintain your good form. Make sure that whenever you're driving the hips, you are driving through the heel. That's going to help engage and turn on the glutes. Come all the way up, creating that space. Bring the other leg in. Keep coming up until you can stand up, and nice and controlled. So it's not a race, not trying to go as fast as possible. If anything, we want to go slow and controlled so you can really flex the muscles. This drill or this routine is all about engaging, activating those new muscles, activating that new range of motion and using it so that it's strong around that joint. Last one. So again, what we did was we went decompression, mobility, activation. Now what we want to do is finish out with reintegrating, getting that core to work with everything again. The Turkish Get Up really helped out with that. Now this is just a little bonus round to really strengthen the core. What we're going to do is a plank. Now this plank is what we really want to do. The standard plank is where everything's typically straight. As your core fatigues, because that's what we want whenever we're doing a plank, we want to strengthen the core by making it fatigue. So as the core fatigue, if you're completely straight, that'll start to create a dip or an arch in our low back and putting pressure in our low back, which is what we don't want. So what we want to do is have that plank, pop the shoulders out, rounding out your back. You're going to create a little bridge, and then with your hips, you're going to create, again, what's called a posterior pelvic tilt. So we want just a little bit of a roundedness at the upper back and a little bit of a tuck with the hips, engaging the glutes, engaging the pelvic floor muscles of the core. So your deep low ab muscles, your intrinsic core muscles, we want to flex those. And now you're going to hold that plank. What we're really trying to do whenever we hold a plank, we want to hold that plank for minimum 3 minutes. If you're not able to do it, that's fine, but that's what we want to work up to. Especially for elite competitors, we want to get up to 5 to 7 minutes of being able to do a plank hold. Why? Because you're lifting some serious weight, you're compressing seriously your joints, and a lot of that fatigue, a lot of those workouts is going to your low back. Your low back is a assisting muscle, meaning it's not supposed to do a lot of heavy lifting, not supposed to do a lot of work. And so whenever it's always tight on you, it's because it's doing too much work, it's having too much pressure on it. So the thing that's going to do the work for it which is what's supposed to happen, and take that pressure away from it, is having a really strong core. And so to make your core catch up to that amount of pressure or strength, one of the best ways is by doing a plank for 5 to 7 minutes. You're really gonna see the difference in how strong your core is, how much better your lifts are by being able to do a 5 to 7 minute plank. All right, so give that a try. Thank you for watching. This was for you, all of you Strongman competitors. Again, courtesy of Grindhouse Fitness. I put this together for all of you. That way, you stay loose, you stay limber, you stay strong, and you crush that event. This was a full functional recovery workout that I put together for all of you, courtesy of Grindhouse Fitness, that all of you Strongman competitors that are competing this weekend. This way you can, again, stay loose, stay limber, stay strong, and really crush that event. Thank you for watching. This was for you.